We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson, joined, as always, by my co-host and co-editor at Mavs Moneyball, Josh Bowe. How you doing tonight, Josh?
I'm doing okay. You do a good job of setting the table when we start these podcasts, but I'm just kind of going to go right into it. I am pissed off, but not for the reason you might think. I'm not necessarily pissed off that the Mavericks lost a game. Because wins and losses happen, whatever. I don't get wrapped up too much in the results as much as I used to. I am pissed off that we have to talk about shitty officiating that directly influences the outcome of a game. As anyone that has listened to this podcast for a while knows that we detest talking about the refs. We hate when they become part of the game. Because that's not why we do this. I like talking about the basketball. I like talking about the intricacies of what goes into why a team wins and why a team loses. So when something like this happens, I don't get to talk about it because we have to talk about this. So go ahead.
So, with 15 seconds left in the game, the Pelicans were up 117 to 116. The Pelicans attempted to inbound the ball. PJ Washington plays really solid defense. Who did he force to pick up their dribble? I should know this. This is embarrassing. He forced Jordan Hawkins, who, because they're probably hoping the Mavericks would foul, but he effectively PJ Washington strips Jordan Hawkins of the ball. Mavs drive, and this is about the 7-second mark with 3 seconds left. Spencer Dinwiddie gets off the first good shot he'd gotten off that didn't make me scream at the television, only to have Trey Murphy III goaltend a shot that the ball clearly hit the backboard, which at that point
it wasn't even bang bang, just to be clear.
No, it was pretty obvious in real time. I mean, I was watching on a smaller screen, so I was mainly cringing because every time Spencer shot in the fourth quarter, I wanted to die. But we'll circle back to that one. The baseline ref could not see, and the ref, who was probably closer to half court, and I think that was their call, elected to not call anything, which, given the proclivity of reviews that we've seen in the NBA recently, it was a really shocking non-call. And so the Mavericks have to foul immediately. and they fouled Trey Murphy, who makes both free throws, and Najee Marshall missed a like 3/4 court heave. Game's over. Yeah, man. We're approaching some bleak times, or we're living in bleak times. Actually, this sort of feels like the start of a post-apocalyptic scenario.
Yeah, that's a bad. I mean, I don't even know if to call it a bad loss. The Pelicans are not a very good team, very injury riddled. They had their preferred starting backcourt and Trey Murphy, one of their best wings. But after that, it's a real mash unit. Jose Alvarado, their best backup guard, got injured in the fourth quarter and didn't return. So, I mean, no Zion, no Brandon Ingram, no Herb Jones. This isn't a good Pelicans team. So even with no Luka, no Kyrie, as Kyrie sat out second out of a back-to-back after coming back from the back injury, Mavericks are not going to push him. Even with all that, I think if you believe in this Mavericks roster as we do, I think you think that this would be a win, even on the second out of a back-to-back. I mean, nothing's guaranteed, but you would hope that they would get this one, because we talked about they have to get these, because when they're not playing Pelicans, Charlotte, Wizards in the next 3 weeks, they're playing Boston, Oklahoma City, Denver. Like they're either playing title contenders or bottom feeders for the next 3 weeks. So if they don't win these bottom feeder games, they can be in trouble. So I don't know. It was just it was a horrible goaltending call, and New Orleans had a timeout. They could have inbounded it and had a chance to win it. So we don't know. The butterfly effect. Could they have like tossed in a buzzer beater with 1.5 seconds left or whatever it would have been? If they call that a goaltend, I don't know, but that didn't happen. We can only react to what happened. It's one of the worst missed goaltending calls I've seen at the end of a game in a long time.
Yeah, man.
Again, it was not a bang bang where you needed slow motion replay. Like it was a full beat on the backboard before Murphy blocked it. I mean, it was fully, it was fully on the glass, removed from Dinwiddie's hand, and then it was blocked. Like I don't know what else to say. It was.
Well, okay. I think we've addressed it. We've done our part. I'm not particularly interested in litigating that, because here's what should have happened. If the Mavericks, if PJ Washington didn't foul Jordan Hawkins there, if they got a chance, they gave themselves a chance, and the rest fucked it up.
Yep.
The overarching thing is that the Mavericks shouldn't have fucking been down to begin with, and we're talking about why. Right.
That's the thing that's going to get completely overshadowed from.
No, it's not, because we're going to talk about it, because I am a Mavs fan. You are a Mavs lifer that is more agnostic to. I think you like the specific basketball, but the highs and lows are just not there in regular season games anymore for you, which is fine. So let's just walk through the fourth quarter and talk about what happened here, guys. Yeah, and where the comments are kind of getting to what I would rather talk about. The Mavericks entered the fourth quarter up 91-87. Tail end of the third quarter, it felt like the Mavericks were finally taking control of the game. They had been down by 10 points early in the third. And it's like, guys, what are you doing? This Pelicans team doesn't have the juice to stick with you. PJ Washington looks real rough lately. We're going to have to circle back as to why. But the Mavericks start drawing fouls. The Mavericks draw 4 fouls in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And the final at the 9:30 mark, Spencer draws a shooting foul on a 3-point shot, hits all 3. They have 9 minutes and 30 seconds of being in the bonus. Do you know how many free throws the Mavericks shot the remainder of the game?
Just the 2 at the very end when PJ got fouled on that second to last possession.
Very end. Now, you might be wondering at home, how does that happen? Lord only knows. Lord only knows. Jason Kidd will say he's just watching, or give us some more. I'm sure he's going to be able to get away with his. We just talked last night about how we're not going to talk about Jason Kidd too much. we're not going to talk about him getting fired. We are going to talk about when he shits the bed. And he took a coach-sized dump on the floor for the second straight game. Just baffling shooting decisions. Okay. Daniel Gafford, who we've not even mentioned. Gafford, a guy who has quite reasonably been on our collective shit list for being horrible at basketball, put up a career high 27 points, 12 boards, including 9 defensive boards, 2 assists, a pair of blocks. He was 12 of 13 from the floor. I think the last shot he took, where is it? I'm scrolling through here just because I want to make sure that I'm not crazy. The last shot, when do you think the last shot that he took was? I found it. This is crazy.
Man, I was going to say, good Lord. When was he on the floor in the final minutes or so?
You're getting to it.
He wasn't even on the floor.
You're getting to it. Okay. So Gafford makes a dunk off a great Najee Marshall alley-oop at the 8-minute mark. Then he gets a dunk from Klay Thompson at 7:19. Okay. After that, Gafford doesn't take a shot. So the guy who had scored all the points doesn't get the ball. Now, you might be wondering, because you mentioned this yourself. Let me see here. Gafford, when does he exit the game? He makes a dunk at 7:19. He goes out at 5:30. So he goes 2 full minutes without touching the ball. But the Mavericks are keeping this lead. Javonte Green hits a big shot. Gafford goes out at 5:30. He comes back in 2 minutes later. But at that point, that was when we started to finally get, and during that time, we had got just a whole lot of Spencer Dinwiddie. Just like an epic proportion. My Spencer agenda from the preseason, it was like a prophecy being fulfilled of bad Spencer. And then they did something kind of amazing after a timeout. They decided to give the ball to someone else. Klay Thompson hits a buzzer-beating 3 on the shot clock at 3:15. Then he hits a driving layup. Then he hits another driving layup. Then guess who decided it was Spencer Dinwiddie time again? Spencer Dinwiddie gets a shot clock violation, takes a busted-ass mid-range shot, and then all of a sudden, wouldn't you know it, the Mavericks find themselves down, or the Mavericks find themselves only up by 1 because DeJounte Murray is cooking. And then they find themselves in kind of a bad luck situation. Javonte Green hits a 25-foot three-point jumper off of a little bit of a broken play, but I think you live with Javonte Green taking that shot. But the problem is, guys, the Mavericks shouldn't have been there. They just shouldn't have been there. They couldn't defend DeJounte Murray to save their life. DeJounte Murray had so many points in the fourth quarter, and Dallas did nothing different. PJ Washington committed a boneheaded foul on him with, when was it? It was at about 16 seconds left on like a hezzy pull-up where he was just all over the place. I mean, the Mavericks defensively right now, and this is the thing I think we can talk about the actual basketball, are so disconnected that it's hard to know where to start. And yeah, okay, there are guys out, but this team has defensive principles that they're not honoring. None of them. I mean, it starts, in my opinion, it really starts and ends with Spencer Dinwiddie being garbage. He's playing a lot of these minutes, and he does the Lucas shit where he's like, what am I supposed to do? As he like olays someone to the basket. Like, he's so bad at defense. And then there's Gafford, who's expected to clean up the mess, and Gafford is a shot block chaser. And so you're just giving up O boards. They gave up a ton of offensive boards again, didn't they?
Yes, they gave up 15.
So you give up 15 offensive boards. How many second chance points the Pelicans have?
I don't have it right on me. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But the same principles to these previous two losses apply to this one.
Only 19 somehow.
Only 19 because but still 19's
right. a lot.
Man, 15 offensive boards and only 19 second chance points. Mavericks got lucky.
Yeah, Pelicans weren't great tonight, which makes the loss even more disheartening. Yeah, Murray was the only one who was doing anything for them. And he started off pretty slow too. I mean, he did everything in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
The Mavericks play a lot of drop with Daniel Gafford. And Murray is a mid-range guy, and he killed it. in the mid range. It's not like he got hot and hit a bunch of threes. I mean, he was 4 of 10 from 3, but he did most of his work in the mid range and at the rim. Drop is kind of a good coverage for him because he's comfortable in that mid range area. Because he takes the shots that you try to entice. When you're playing a drop coverage, and when I say drop, of course I mean pick and roll defense. When the big man is playing back closer to the rim and in the paint, kind of waiting for the guard to get around the screen to catch up to the play, and you kind of leave that free throw line extended area open for the ball handling guard, and your goal is, hey, take that 18-foot pull up because we think that we can live with that. Because that's not really a great shot for a lot of guys. But for Murray, that is a great shot. So, they didn't really try anything different. They didn't blitz. They switched some, which was pretty effective at times, but they don't really, they kind of really got away from it a little bit in the fourth quarter. They kind of presented a runway for Murray to either pull up and hit that jumper he's comfortable with, or to use that space to get to the rim easier. Like to be, when you give that runway to some of these athletic guards, even if you have your shot blocker waiting for him, if he's uncontested when he's going to the basket, that can make it a little bit more. That can make it more challenging for the big man to contest him. And it's a shame because they did like Trey Murphy was their. Trey Murphy and CJ McCollum are the only other guys that can do things on offense for them. Jordan Hawkins is pretty good too. But Murphy is a guy that should be killing this team. He's a very athletic.
Yeah, man, he's always caused some problems.
And he was awful. Like Maxi Kleba probably played some of the best defense I've seen him play in a while, and he's been pretty decent defensively this season. He absolutely locked him up, but he only played 14 minutes. I think the Mavericks are in a pickle right now with their lineup choices, and I don't think Kidd is always making the right one, but I also think he has his hands tied at some point, not to defend him, but ideally you would want to see something like Grimes, Najee, PJ, Clay, Gafford, or Grimes, Najee, PJ, Maxey, Gafford. But they keep playing these lineups with a lot of Dinwiddie and a lot of Jaden Hardy because they kind of have to, because you think, okay, we'll play the lineups where Grimes is the smallest guard on the floor so that you can just be a little bit more complete defensively. But he has tried some stuff like that. They did point Najee that one game and started big, and they were awful offensively. So it's like a give and take a little bit with these lineups, because if as bad as Dinwiddie was in the fourth quarter, before that he was acceptable. He had 4 assists, he had 1 turnover. He was actually shooting the ball okay until until the fourth. From the fourth quarter to the end of the game, he was horrible. But entering the fourth, he did a decent job. And when you take him off the floor, Kidd just doesn't trust them to play offense without him or Hardy on the floor at the same time. Hardy actually had a really great game, and I think he buried Hardy a little bit, and
he buried Hardy and he buried Grimes.
Yeah, and I think it's less like he's not. I don't know what it is. It could be, maybe I'm giving him way too much benefit of the doubt, and maybe it is something where he's just missing the obvious. But to me, it feels more like he doesn't feel comfortable with the offense when he doesn't have Luka, he doesn't have Kyrie. I don't think he trusts Grimes and Hardy to be the playmaking kind of guys. Like, he needs those guys to be off ball. And if you need those guys to be off ball, it means Dinwiddie has to play. And so if Dinwiddie's playing, who are you taking off the floor of Najee, PJ, Clay, Gafford, right?
Yep.
So does Gafford sit a little bit? I don't know. He had 10 assists tonight, but also he didn't shoot the ball well. So I can sympathize a little bit with some of these lineup decisions, but at a certain point, you have to kind of play within the context of the game and maybe just ride a hot hand for a little bit, would that be the worst thing in the world to ride a hot hand, see if it works? I mean, they lost the game anyway. What happens if you play Hardy a couple more minutes? If he shoots you out of the game, whatever, they lost the game anyway.
So I got to clarify something before I get clipped to death. Earlier, I said that Spencer Dinwiddie makes the Luka hand gesture I got to be clear here. Luka makes that gesture at the ref after no calls. Spencer makes that gesture at his teammates after he lets people go by him. Like, you guys got to keep your eyes on Spencer off ball. He is a traffic cone. He is basically what Luka haters describe Luka as. Is where I'm at there. And then second, like there's a number of really good comments. I want to scroll up because they're like, we had some people making some good points. James Lewis off of Twitter asks, why are Gafford's numbers so much better than when he starts? They're not actually better. They just played one of the worst teams in the league tonight, and Gafford ate.
His counting sets might be better, but the Mavericks do not play better.
Yeah,
with him as a starter. That starting lineup with Kyrie, Luka, PJ, Gafford, and Clay has basically a -7 net rating on cleaning the glass. Like that starting lineup was horrible. So his numbers are a little bit better, but in terms of impacting winning, it's not the same. Although I don't know if it's a little different when he's been starting without Luka and Kyrie. Like I would almost want to check that. Like I almost wonder because they're so like I think Gafford is a better scorer than Lively. I mean, he just seems to score more points.
He looked a little like there was some
maybe
some pep in his step tonight. I think that's at least worth acknowledging.
He had accountability because I think after the Denver game last night, which was truly one of the worst games I've seen him play since he's been in. I think that was the worst game he's played since he's been traded to Dallas, including the playoff run. And I think I didn't totally tune in post game, but apparently he owned up to playing poorly last night, so he was very motivated. Of course, you know he didn't have much to go through tonight, but to dominate, and he did. He can't pick and choose who he's playing against, so. He still had to go do it, so he did do it, and it is kind of a shame he didn't really see the floor or just didn't seem like he was evolved. Like the thing with I don't know what's going on with the fourth quarter offense. Like these Dinwiddie,
it gets extra bad. Like it goes from being like single. It goes from being like, okay, there's a screen and there's a drive to there's not even a screen. There's dribble, shoot.
I mean, it's 1-0 or one pass possessions where one guy's dribbling the ball the whole time, and it's frustrating when the Mavericks do this when they have Luka, and that's Luka who letting him dribble for 24 seconds and taking a shot is still like not the it's still a pretty good outcome.
I hope everybody appreciates this shit from Luka now. Okay, like you get tired of the Luka ISO offense. You know what it could be? The Luka ISO offense run through a fax
without
machine
Luka
37 times. Because that's what Spencer Dinwiddie is. A copy of a copy of a copy. If you've seen the movie Multiplicity, Spencer Dinwiddie is the one who's like, I like pizza. I like it. It's a moron. I'm tired of watching him play basketball.
What a pull.
I also referenced Eve 6 tonight on
You're
Twitter.
doing great. I love it.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I don't. So that's like there was lots of debate of like, hey, do the Mavericks play this heavy Luka ISO thing because like the coaches want to do one thing, but Luka wants to do this? Kind of hard to argue that when Luka's not on the floor and they're still doing it with players that are not capable of producing in those moments. So again, like I know it's the NBA. Like I'm not expecting Princeton offense like in the final 4 minutes of a clutch NBA game, but like I don't know what's going on from the sideline and the coaching staff with these possessions.
I mean, and when you're giving up all the points,
like what are they drawing up? Are they talking about other shit in the huddle? Like, are they talking about stuff and they're not running it, or are they not talking about it and they're talking about like defensive stuff in the huddle instead of what they're going to run? But it's got to stop. I mean, until Luka, like, I don't know if they're going to win more games, but like, and you said it, like Clay scored 7 points in the fourth, screening for Dinwiddie and scoring against the mismatch and had a little post up after screening for Dinwiddie. I don't understand. Like it's there. It doesn't have to be that complicated. That's the thing. Basketball is not that complicated. It's just got to be a little bit more than this. And I think the team is good enough to not do this.
I got to do some business, guys. I've not done it for like 3 podcasts in a row, which is actually actively really bad for Josh. I need you guys to do me a favor here. You're here. You're pissed off tonight. You're thinking about how to make things better. Okay. And how you make things better in your own personal life is you start using a company that we were approached by back in November, a company called Body Spec. What Body Spec does is provide a DEXA scan. And if you don't know what that is, it's a full body composition scan to help you understand what's going on with your body. Whether you're an athlete, somebody with a desk job, or somebody who's just trying to figure out how to get back in shape, a DEXA scan is a great way to learn more about where you are on your fitness journey. Similarly, the Mavericks, as a basketball organization, could use a DEXA scan to figure out what the hell is going on with their fourth quarter offense. If you'll head to the show notes on the podcast or into the video notes here, if you're watching on the YouTube, you will see a link to Body Spec, and that's a special link for us. If you use the code PODMAVS45 at checkout, you'll get $15 off a single scan. With the holidays, oh no, this is an old ad read. My bad, Kirk. The holidays have come and gone. We're here in the new year. If you're doing what I'm doing, which is trying to establish some good habits, this is a great idea to help kind of figure out where you are on your fitness journey. Body Spec's competitors charge as much as $150 for a scan like this, so you'll be getting real, usable information for a great price. Again, if you'll visit that bodyspec.com link in the show notes and you use PODMAVS45, you'll get $15 off. And guys, every person who gets scanned direct, like from here on out, it directly helps Josh and I. I'll just let you use your brains as to what that actually means. Okay, we're going to insert some ads here because I actually got to do that. I've not done it for 2 shows in a row, which got me in trouble. And I don't want to be in trouble. So we'll be right back. Thanks for listening and hanging out.
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or you're managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place and all on your terms. Introducing Design Intelligence from Squarespace, combining 2 decades of industry-leading design expertise with cutting-edge AI technology to unlock your strongest creative potential. They've also got Squarespace Payments. That's the easiest way to manage your payments all in one place with Squarespace. Onboarding is fast and simple, and you can get started with just a few clicks and start receiving payments right away. You can also connect major social and multimedia accounts to your website with just a few clicks as icons, direct links, or embedded feeds, so you can build that visitor trust while updating content only where you need it. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, squarespace.com/bluewire to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Okay, so I've also not asked people to subscribe in a little while. We're very close to like 3,500 followers. That would be fun if we could actually get through this during a shit time in the off season, in the doldrums of this slog of a year. Man, I'm not sure kind of where to go from here because there's just so much of this. Like somebody, I think it was Prince in the chat asked earlier. So was our off season a failure? And
Come on.
No, it's worth addressing because I think sometimes there are expectations that come with things, and we're told, and we do some of the telling because we are media. We are out here talking about this. We have talked at length about how the Mavericks have a much deeper, better team, and we felt like they were much more able to weather injuries. And if you're looking at this and you're passionately thinking about the Mavericks lose, 8 out of their last 10. You're looking at this going, what the hell are those guys talking about? And I will simply start with this, and Josh can kind of build off this. When Luka Doncic goes down like this, all bets are off. When you add Kyrie Irving's weird back injury into this, it is a extra murky. Then every other guy on the roster has been hurt. I want to emphasize this again. The Mavericks have played over 2,000 minutes of team basketball this year. They have had their ideal starting finishing five, whatever you want to call it. Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Derek Lively. They have had that five play together for 100 minutes. 5% of the season. I guarantee if you go look at the best teams in the league, that number for their ideal starting five is closer to 30%. The Mavericks are playing at a disadvantage right now. If they are able to get healthy, if they are able to hang around, if they are able to just not die on the vine, which is really hard, there is a chance that this gets better.
Yeah, and I think the thing is we saw it. We haven't seen it for a lot, but in that time that you mentioned, that very short amount of time, small sample, they've looked like one of the best teams in the league. They were 20-10. I think before Luka got hurt, their team metrics were incredible. Incredible is probably too strong, but they were outstanding. I mean, they were like top 5 in net rating, on cleaning the glass. All their numbers looked good in the ways that you want them to. Nothing looked fluky. Guys were producing. They had a lot of guys that were averaging double digits, which was nice. They were playing a new style where Luka was not holding the ball as much, which is a much more sustainable way to win games, especially in the playoffs. I mean, it was all trending in the right direction. And I think when we say like this roster is the best roster, like I personally think this is the best Mavericks roster since 2011. I had someone, interact with me and say like, are we overrating this now that we're seeing this? And I responded, and I still feel this is that 2011 roster went 2-7 in those 9 games Dirk missed when he sprained his knee. Like,
and Caron Butler,
missed
the toe tendon,
right, and was gone for the rest of the season. So when we say depth and like, they don't need Luka. They don't need Luka to as much to win these games in terms of like what he had to do in the past. Like it doesn't mean Luka can go away for a month and they could still be good. That means like they don't need Luka in game.
You survive a 5-game stretch.
Yeah, you could survive a 5-minute stretch within one game. Like with Luka can rest more. Like that's almost more what I'm talking about. Like it's, Luka doesn't have to play 40 minutes and have a 38 usage. It's Luka. When you say they don't need Luka to rely on Luka ball so heavily, it's like he can play 32 minutes and have a lower usage. Not necessarily he can be out for a month.
Right.
Then you tack on Irving. I mean, they miss Lively too. Their 3 best players were not playing. I mean, I don't think that invalidates what we thought about the offseason moves.
Right. But I just thought it's worth addressing.
I understand. You're right. It is worth addressing. I didn't mean to what?
That's okay.
Because you're right. People. I never want to tell people how to fan, and if they're frustrated, they should be frustrated.
Because we did talk about it a lot. I just think some of the context starts to matter. And guys, like the other part that we alluded to and talked about in other podcasts is this quite literally happened at the worst possible time. The Mavericks are going to go through hell the rest of this month, and we're like. Josh and I talk about this before the show. We find things to talk about because we like talking to each other. We like interacting with you. But most of the time, we would have come in here and been like, Mavs win or lose. There just wasn't much to talk about this game. Like I don't understand why Jaden Hardy died and didn't get to play, which is an insane thing for me to say. Put that out there. I don't understand why Grimes got put away. There's just elements of this where it's just what is happening. Why are these? And you talked about it a little bit, but there's just not a ton to talk about big picture, because if you have you're missing Lively too, which we barely touched on. So that's once again, 3 starters. So it's like, you're not learning anything about this. None of these guys are doing things that they're going to do. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of Najee Marshall stuff that happens. Like he was wheeling and dealing tonight as well, but he was a -14 on the court. Like
if Spencer Dinwiddie is playing 38 minutes in an April playoff game, there's something. The season is not right. Like this just isn't the team we're going to be watching in 2 months.
It's not, man.
Oh, you said you want to talk about one more thing.
Ooh, we have to address it, because I think if we don't address it, it's very funny.
Are we talking about the same thing? I'm talking about a player.
Oh no,
you're talking about something else.
Yes,
I'll mention my thing then. You were talking about PJ Washington.
Yeah, I think he's hurt.
Yeah, he hurt his knee. What, New Year's Day against Houston? I'm looking at his game log. Look at his game. I don't have the numbers like calculated.
He played one good game
since that knee injury, which he never missed a game. By the way, like he missed the rest of that Houston game, but he played. 48 hours later against Cleveland. He has not been the same player offensively or defensively.
Yep.
He's shooting poorly from 2-point range. He's just shooting poorly in general. His rebounding has been hit or miss, but his defense has had a drop off. Hasn't looked like the same guy. So I wonder if he's playing hurt.
I think he is.
That's my thing.
He's not that bad. Like he was I don't know, he was odd tonight. All right. I just want to throw this out into the void because I have had, let's just say, conflicts. Like I'm pretty sure Mark Followell has me blocked on Twitter for me making fun of Harp several years ago. I like the commentator guys. Jeff Skin Wade and I are occasionally friendly when we're not arguing over basketball stuff. We've been out and spent time with them. So when we say this, just understand that this is coming from a place of like, I've never seen this before. Followell getting caught on a hot mic yelling at the refs is new.
I don't know what to. I feel like I almost need to plead the fifth because I've been so good about
That was just new. I mean, he was not wrong. It's like
no. I mean, he very much represented how the fan base felt in that moment.
Well, and considering Jason Kidd's sociopathic behavior after the game, where he's just like, I guess they were like, he didn't even get mad. Like Kidd wasn't even mad after the game. So I guess it's nice that somebody gives a shit.
If anything, Kidd's probably more mad about everything that happened before that call.
No, I mean, he didn't seem to be that mad about it. He didn't do anything about any of it.
That's true. Like,
what is he? He's just, I hate it when he fulfills his stereotype, Right. Because it's like, I feel like we get over a hump with him and then he's a moron. And it's just like, oh, well, it's like, where are the Mavs in the West? Like the Lakers are getting beaten by the Heat pretty badly right now. So it's like, it feels like the West is just this big, ugly set. And it's like somebody said earlier in the show, hey, I've read that Luka, I think Grant Afseth reported this, that Luka stands a chance of coming back before the All-Star break. Well, the All-Star break's not for a month. So like, it's like, guys,
the All-Star, the last game before the All-Star break is February 13th.
Yes. So the Mavericks are now 22-19. They're a solid 8 seed looking down. They still have a 1.5 game lead over Sacramento. Yeah, I was going somewhere with that, but
are they going to be over? Okay. So they're next. Let's say, let's get through the end of January.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City, Charlotte.
Oklahoma City's without a real big man again. So that could be fun.
Right. Oh, excuse me for sneezing on a mic. So Oklahoma City, Charlotte, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Boston, Washington, New Orleans, Detroit. And if you want to peek a little bit farther, let's peek a little bit farther because so then let's go through to February 8th. So after that, Detroit, January 31st, Cleveland, Philly, Boston, Houston. Are the Mavericks going to be over 500 after that game against Houston on February 8th?
That would be really something, man.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 12 games. So they'd have to be under 500. They'd have to go -4 in this 12 games. So over that, they'd be 4-8. 4-8 over the next 12 would get them under 500. I don't know. Not a lot of gimmies in Charlotte, Washington, New Orleans are really the only game. Like that's 3 games that they're going to be favored out of the next 12, and they're 3 games over 500. So
yeah, it's going to get weird.
I don't know, and people, it's gonna.
I mean,
I'm curious to know how the org it's going to be curious because it's all coming up right on the trade deadline.
I mean, they're absolutely shopping Gafford. Like I got like this is not me reporting anything. I just got texts from multiple people in different media markets being like, the Mavericks are looking to move on from Gafford. If there's a way, they're looking for a defensive wing, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure they are. Like what?
Every team's looking for a defensive.
This is not not news. I mean, like we've talked about this already. Gafford's contract is up at the end of next season. Like they sort of have to start looking for him if they don't think, it's like if he's not like a fit that can get signed at a reasonable deal, and I don't know what that means. Things are just going to get goofy, and that's okay. Trade deadline stuff always gets goofy.
Yep.
Goodness. All right, we talked 37 minutes about this. Everyone, I appreciate there's a lot of passion here tonight. Kind of more folks than we've had in here in a while. A lot on Twitter, but I keep saying I'm going to do an after show. I don't want to tonight. I have no more zest. There is I'm not sad. I'm just kind of like, this is your championship window. If you think you have a championship team. I remember I muted this lady. I don't remember what her name was. She just kept arguing with me, but I just tried to tell her, I was like, you have to win a championship before you build a dynasty. And a lot of fans get in the business of trying to build a dynasty before winning anything. And the Mavericks actually assembled a team here that was short-lived. This team that we've assembled, the Mavericks have right now, it's kind of a short-lived group, but that's what you have to do. You have to go for it. And I think that
get one
right. And I think healthy, this team is still capable of contending. But they're not healthy right now, and it's not fair, and there's not really anything else we can do about that.
Yeah, I think if you try to build an if you try to build a contender by trying to build a sustainable team rather than a team that can,
you have to build through the draft, like the Thunder and the Warriors did that one year. You have to, and you just have to get a little bit lucky. And the second apron has made it next to impossible to really hold a team together.
So you got to get it when you can get it.
You got to get, and there's luck involved in that. It's like you've mentioned this a long time ago where you said the Denver title was the end of their run, not the beginning. And I think about that all the time because I think you're right. And I think that, there's an opportunity here, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but this is just the way timing works out where we might look and say, all right, this was the end of this particular Maverick. It sucks. So
you're really getting dark now.
No, it's like that. Like Kyrie's got a back injury. We're not allowed to not allowed, but because the information is so murky with it, he's 32. It's like somebody in the chat said we're going to have to talk about whether the Mavericks should re-sign him. Like the answer to that is yes, but you have to.
Right, you're in.
So you're in it. Like you don't. Yeah. I mean, there's one choice. We were objectively correct in 2020 when we said the KP trade set the Mavericks back. Because it did. They did not. They tried to jump the line, and he was not healthy. He had a half of a good year, and it didn't work. And this is just but you have to take risks. You just do. Like Wemby, I'm sure this is a conversation for a different day. But like I was talking about Luka's second year versus Wemby's second year, and like Wemby's dragging a heinously bad San Antonio roster to wins, and it's just Luka. Luka had a much better roster second year. They just did because that Mavericks roster is actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a discussion for another day. I like talking about these guys because talking about basketball is supposed to be fun.
Right.
Okay. Everybody be good. We will be back on Friday. Talk soon. All right.
Yep. Bye guys.
Go Mavs.